Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. So we have a half an hour today to really dig deep into really three objectives, is helping get clarity on goals, getting the right mindset, and then really adding the effective techniques to it. So as you know, Glenn Mattson, I've been with Sandler for 31 years. I've really developed well over 250,000 people and 15,000 entrepreneurs. So hopefully, as we go through this path, I'm going to give you some good insights on areas that you can do those three things and have them connected. So clarity of the goals with the right mindset to drive the effectiveness of the techniques. In all the years I've been doing this, I always get the same type of questions historically. If I go in and I sit down with executives or business owners, and the question always becomes is what's more important? Do we need to have a good plan? Do we need to have a great strategy that if we have a good plan and strategy, people will actually follow it? Or do we need really good people who can execute? And if we have an okay plan, execution will win every time. So, what was the reason, or is the reason, that a lot of companies and individuals too really don't hit their objectives? Do you think it maybe the strategy is off? Do you think you just have poor people who don't execute? And it's been a question that's been around forever, and people are asking all the time: is we need better people executing, or we need a stronger strategy to achieve this? Yep. When Harvard put it together, they actually did a grid on the importance and then also the popularity of the responses. And let me show you what they are, but some of you may be a little surprised by where some of them land. Now, for instance, I thought for sure that lack of clarity from leadership, right? It is pretty important. It was up there, but it wasn't necessarily as popular. Then you have silos. But when we look at it, the ones that most people, if I was able to ask you to chat, will come back and say, oh, everyone's so busy. They don't have an opportunity to get it done. Or, you know what? We don't really have the accountability that we need from leadership. We can't really measure if it's working or not, right? Well, we're not really good at communicating the process and the strategy. All right. Silos, is that the real reason? No, but what comes back year after year after year is that when companies put together company goals, what they have failure at is they don't tie those company goals to department goals, to team goals, but to most importantly, individual goals. So the connectivity between what the company wants to achieve and what the individual wants to achieve is missing. And more times than not, if I can't point my finger at what I'm trying to accomplish and why I'm trying to accomplish it, then I'm doing it for you, not me. So let me ask you a question. As you look at this grid and this sheet right here, where do you think the obstacles to execution fall for you? Because the answer to the question before was what's more important, strategy or execution? You can't have great strategy if you don't have a plan. You can't have execution without great strategy. You can't blame one without the other. So I want you to realize when you look at your goals moving forward, the goal and the ability to follow through in the goal is the same thing. You can't blame we have a good plan, we had poor strategy. Doesn't work out. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through, as I mentioned before, I've been doing this for a long time, and we have a process called 5 stages of entrepreneurial growth. Regardless if you're a CEO, regardless if you're a individual producer, regardless if you're managing a group of people, individuals follow the same type of path of growth. And then today, I want to talk to you about even if you're an individual producer or if you have a team or if you're running a company and that company may be small, right? Mid-sized business, maybe you're small under 20 employees. That's where 90% of them are. Maybe you're part of a larger corporation. Yet when we look at this and we're going to take a look at how to grow, we have vision, but then we have to put strategy together to get there. And then you have to have your day-to-day tactics of what has to happen to do so. Now, if you haven't heard about CARE yet, you may want to talk to your local your sales trainer from Sandler to give you a little more insight into CARE, because one of the things you want to look at and what I'm going to share with you is how you can change or alter, or you should need to focus on different strategies for different compartments of your vision. Sandler uses CARE. CARE is an acronym. K stands for keep. Every one of us has clients that have been with us for a while. They kind of bought everything that we have, but we still need to keep them. So what's your strategy to keep your best clients someone else's prospects. So how do we keep them your clients and avoid them from being someone else's best prospects? So what are your strategies? What are your effective tactics? So what are you going to be doing to grow the relationship? And there's a relationship grid. You go from familiar to friendly to awareness, right? There's a grid to this to create that part of your story relationship. Well, then you also have a strategy for attainment. Attainment is going out and hunting outside the zoo. Hunting outside the zoo, finding people who are unaware of who you are, qualifying them and closing them. That's hunting. That's attainment. Recapturing for many of you may be the smallest one. Recapturing is going after those that left you, but you want them back. Maybe they left you for the wrong reasons. Maybe they were great clients, but you want them back. So what's your recapturing strategies? The last one is expansion. These are your current clients, the people that you work with right now. What is your strategy to provide more solutions, more help, et cetera, et cetera? How are you going to expand that footprint? So what are your strategies to bring them in? What are your strategies to grow them? And what are your strategies to keep them? And are those strategies in alignment? Because the last thing you want to do is have the wrong people on the wrong seats of the bus. You don't want individuals that are supposed to be attainers in the keep area. You also don't want to have people sitting on the bus that's supposed to go out and bring in new business, but they can't hunt. That means every time you have a one-on-one, all you're talking about is the lack of behavior. So take a look at it. Do you have the right people in the right seats of the bus? But most importantly is, do you have strategies on how to keep, attain, and expand your clients? They're all different. So when we look at care and we look at the growth of where you want to go as a company, I want to share with some of you some simple things around behavior and goals, because goals are what drive people to keep them, to expand them, or to attain them. So did you know that 80% of most people walking planet Earth do not have goals? It's unfortunate. And those that do have them, less than half track them. Less than half actually track their goals. Yet we know if you do have goals and you share them with people, you are going to more likely have the ability to get there. So only 42% of people write them down. But then 3% have a plan. And those people who have a plan that look at it and follow it will out-earn the people up here at 80%. So it's interesting. 20% do better when you take a big goal and you break it down to bite-sized pieces, which, by the way, is cookbooks. Now, those of you listening in, I want you to realize that 45% of the people will write their plan, put it down, and never touch it again. I've been down sitting with people. I say, what are your goals for 2025? They pull out a sheet and they say, oh, I'm sorry, it says 24. And they just cross it off and say 25, same stuff. So they don't track it. You have to track your goals every week. Redo your cookbook every Saturday morning. And by the way, accountability, you got to be self-accountable, but we all need help on the tipping point days. So having someone be an accountability partner will increase your ability by double. It's a lot. So when we look at this, we have to ask ourselves, and we all have seen this before, you have to realize your goals are going to give you the desire to take action. Your goals will burn your attitude. Your attitude is going to give you the ability to drive your behavior. And your behavior is what allows you to use your tactics. Inside the middle are your goals. That's what this is right here. So where it says success is what you want for life, whatever that may be. And everyone has different goals. But those goals should burn what's right above you, which is your attitude. Burn it. So you have the passion. The passion will give you the desire to follow your plan, which then gives you the courage to do your tactics. So let's take a look at this little bit of a journey and how we can get that passion. So when we look at goal setting inside of Sandler is 3 pieces, right? It's your goals, your plan, your action steps. Now, goals, you have personal goals, business goals, you have territory goals, you have all these different pieces, but you should have 8 areas of your life done. And again, you should sit down with your coach and go through this. It's your your personal life, your physical, your business life, your family, spiritual, etc. You should sit down and just write down what you want in life, because you got to have goals, and your goals will create your plan. Your plan is what creates your action steps. So when we do our goals, we need to take a look at what are our long-term goals? What are the things that are out there that we're fighting for? What's 8 years, 9 years, 10 years down the road? If you're in your 20s, what do you want to be when you go to your high school reunion? When you're in your 30s, where do you want to be when you turn 40 or 45? What are your long-term goals? But then you got to break those down to short-term. And listen, short term, some people say is a year, some will say it's 6 months. I will tell you that statistics will say, all the years I've been doing it, your short term goals, 30 to 6 months, 30 days out to 6 months. That's your short term. By quarter, but I like monthly goals are awesome. But then you got to have a daily scorecard. Your daily scorecard says, this is what I have to do today, that if I do this today, I will hit my short term goals. If I hit my short term goals, I'm going to hit my long term goal. So everyone needs a daily scorecard. Write it down, daily scorecard. Every time you put your feet off the floor onto your bed, you got to know if you did well. That's your daily scorecard. But then we got to have a plan. That plan, you got to build it. But when you build it, you got to track it. Maybe you're like most, I did it. I didn't track very well in the beginning. The reason I didn't track very well in the beginning is because I didn't do it. So therefore, I didn't want to track it. Remember, when you have setbacks are nothing more than a test of your commitment to your goals, period. That same thing with procrastination. Now, when you see plans and it says fine tuning, every Saturday morning is my 10 cents. Every Saturday morning, before the kids wake up, before whatever happens, your first cup of coffee, take a look at what you did for that week. Take a look at your pipeline. Take a look at where you are. Take a look at your yellows and greens. If you don't know what that means, yellows are first appointments, green are your closing meetings. How many yellows you got? How many greens you got? Take an analysis and then readjust your cookbook. Readjust it. And that means the fine tuning may readjust your actions. So actions fall into three things. It's vitality, discipline, and guts. So when you have goals, you got to have guts. That's the reason that goals motivate you. That's why also big goals need big action and big guts. But guts come and go. If you heard me ever talk in the past, you're going to hear me say it again today. Discipline is everything. When you set up your goals and you do your cookbook, I could care less how you feel. I could care less that the sun's not out today. I don't care if you rolled up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't care. If your plan says do X, you do it. That's discipline. Discipline is doing what you're supposed to do, even when you don't want to do it, period. So my question for all of you is, when you look at this, you got to have the ability to convert your personal plan into business goals. And that's what your cookbook does. I'm an absolute cookbook freak. I love them. I can't tell you how many of my clients have achieved their personal goals in less time because of being super anal on their cookbook. And a cookbook is nothing more than a map to help you create what your personal goals are converted into income. That moves into step 2, which is to get that personal income. How much business do you need to write? How much sales do you need to do? That leads you into, which by the way means how many first appointments, closing meetings, average case size, etc. But once you figure that out, then the next is, well, where are all those first appointments going to come from? Are they new clients? Are they current clients? Do I only have 7 of them? Do I have a territory that's only giving me 7? Or is your territory out there? So the third step is, where are you going to get the new business from? And of course, your last step is the behavior. Behavior, the things that you need to do on a daily basis to get there. Your behavior is your scorecard. Your behavior is your ways. That's what tells you if you're on track or not on track. So you haven't done a goal, you haven't done a cookbook yet, highly suggest it. Matter of fact, probably 60% of all my coaching clients, the first 15 minutes of every coaching call is doing their cookbook and just making sure they're on track. There's way too many people that have achieved large financial goals because of their cookbook. So when you put the cookbook together, you got to remember the goals in the rules of behavior. The rules of behavior are all goals have to be converted to behavior. All goals have to be converted to behavior. Behavior is the only thing that we honestly can control. So we manage behavior, supervise results, but you got to manage behavior. And if you're someone who's managing people, you stick on the very first part of the process. You manage their daily behaviors. When they start doing their daily behaviors consistently, now you start managing the next piece of the pie. But why would you be managing over here, which is the results, if they're not doing their behavior? You're behind the problem by 4, 6, 7, 8 weeks. And always remember this one. I love this rule. If you don't have it written down, you should. If you're, my coaching clients, you listen in, you know this one. There's always a plan in play. Whoever has a stronger plan will always win. If you do not have a plan, you will be part of someone else's by default. Your cookbook and your goals create your plan. Your prospects are supposed to be part of your plan. So are you part of your prospect's plan? Is their plan stronger when you call? So you got to remember there's always a plan. So remember the process of behaviors. Behaviors are what you can control. Behaviors are the things you fear of doing. But you got to have everything converted down to behaviors because that's what you can control. Now it's time to do what you're supposed to do. And now you know what you have to do. Now we go to the next piece, which is the will and skill. Everyone always sits down with me, that owners, and say, hey, they're great. They're super competent, but they just can't get out of their own way. How come they have a huge natural market, but they can't get referrals? How come they can talk the paint off a wall, but for whatever reason, they can't close any business? How come they have all the product knowledge? Man, they know everything inside and out. But when they show up, they can't keep their mouths shut. They just talk, talk, talk. Okay? So we have to ask ourselves when we do goal setting, it's time to actually start to take action. Is when we look at it, are we aware of what we're supposed to do? And then do we have the knowledge to do it? So if it's you I'm talking to, or I'm talking to you about your team, make sure you give your team the ability to be successful. And giving them the ability is the direction and competencies. If you look at adult learning is awareness, knowledge, application, then skill. Awareness, knowledge, application, and skill. So if you look at this diamond, which is one of my favorite grids, the top part of the water line, which is the top half, you have a training problem. That's a training problem. And by the way, confidence is lost when you don't have great training. If someone knows what to do and they own what to do and they believe in their head, I can do this, it builds confidence through the roof. When they don't believe they can do it, the confidence drops, and so does their risk taking, which leads me to the next piece. So as an individual or an owner, you have to ask yourself, do I or my people, do they just don't have the ability to, or are they lacking the willingness to? And the willingness is desire or bravery. Massive difference. If someone knows what to do and chooses not to do it, you have to determine what creates the choice. Is it the fact that they won't do it, or they just want to do it? They're terrified of doing it. They're afraid. So when we want to look at goals and how to get to the next level, you have to own upstairs, which is the awareness and the knowledge, but we can't let downstairs hold us back. And downstairs is where we have a lot of excuses and issues. Downstairs is where people say to you, yeah, this makes sense, but they don't believe in it and they're not going to do it. We have other people say, yeah, I can get that done. I can get the referrals, for instance, I can do this. And they'd rather cut off their finger than do that because they're terrified of asking those questions. Their scripting in their head isn't allowing it to happen. Bravery issues. So when you take a look at yourself or your team, I want to spend some time on the bottom half for a second. When you're with your team or yourself, you know I love the successful mindset. Successful mindset is 2 simple words that really gravitates and understands and encapsulates really what having someone who has the right mindset of responsibility and accountability and ownership. And by the way, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just, where are you in the process? So before it happens, that's responsibility. Responsibility is when you look at something as before you start it and say, all right, this puppy's mine. Ownership is when you're in the middle of it and all of a sudden the waves get a little bigger. You say taking water, you get sideways. That's ownership. Ownership is in the middle. Accountability is more after the fact. Sitting down doing one-on-one and you're doing a replay. Do they take ownership of what they did or didn't do? See, team, you got to write down in your notes, if you do not take ownership, if you do not take responsibility, if you don't have accountability after the fact, there's not a chance you can grow. There's no way you can learn. Because if you don't take ownership, how do you know what you could have done better? If you don't take ownership, how are you going to know what you missed? If you blame it on a client, God, forget about it. So as we look at this stuff, I want you to realize, and please, if you heard me at the summit, you saw this, I put it up, right? The sales only happen for one of two reasons, right? You lose sales for one of two reasons. That's it. All problems happen for one of two reasons. Don't overcomplicate this. The first is you did or said something you were not supposed to do. That's it. Don't complicate this. I did or said something I wasn't supposed to. Or you didn't say or you didn't do something you were supposed to. I just got off the telephone. It was a joint sales call. One of the individuals brought something up that they should not have brought up, and it completely derailed the sales call. Sales call had nothing to do with the prospect, the economy, their numbers, nothing. It's that chair two said something that they shouldn't have said. And when they did it, the whole thing took a left. And until that second chair owns the fact that they shouldn't have said it and are aware of the fact of they shouldn't have said it, the problem will still come back. So for all of you listening in, are you having great debriefing? Do you debrief after a call? And by the way, when you debrief, you also have to look at the intent of the questions you're asking yourselves. If you're asking yourself, hey man, what could you have done better? Well, what do you need to change? How come you chose that strategy? If you're coming from a critical parent standpoint, that's awful, because what you're looking to do is beat yourself up. That's called guilt, completely unacceptable. You have to look at yourself as a third person. Look at yourself as a stoic. Look at yourself as a tool. Look at yourself as a phone or a keyboard or a computer. Is it working or not? Is it slagging or not? Is it got the good memory or not? Got to fix it. So we do it for everything else, do it for ourselves. And the only way to take real ownership and have the ability to learn is you have to be third person stoic about it. What did I do or what did I say that I shouldn't have? If you don't take ownership of it, how do you learn? Which then brings me to another big problem, is excuse making. It drives me nuts. Okay. Easily you can grow by 40% by getting rid of excuses. You have to realize that people want to believe in themselves. But unfortunately, they make a lot of commitments and they make excuses not getting them. And when they make excuses for not getting them, they start to disbelieve in their ability to get stuff done. So when you look at people who make excuses, they don't want the blame. They're trying to avoid accountability. And if you can't be accountable for something you did, you got to remember, you make a decision. There's a result of the decision. Then there's an outcome of that. That whole lifeline, you're responsible for when you make a decision. So when you try to free yourself of the accountability from that, you actually free yourself from learning. You free yourself from growing. You're freeing yourself from looking at yourself saying, how could I get better? If most of you listening in right now would say to yourself, you know what? Almost all my great growth came from failures. Very little of us learn great stuff when we're winning. You learn about yourself when you get knocked down. So if you're a leader, you better not make excuses, because you make excuses, I'm telling you, you accept them. It's a proven fact. If you make excuses, you take them from your prospects too. But if you have hard stuff to do, like you want to get up and go to the gym, you want to get up at 5:30, don't make an excuse. Get up at 5:30. Stop using your snooze button. And when you're at the gym, you feel great that the fact you're at the gym. And when you know you're supposed to be doing something, you choose not to do it, it's a double negative. Now, I have to also tell you that people that are excuse makers are habitual. They make them once, you accept it, they do it again. And by the way, you do it yourself. You make an excuse, you accept it. Your brain's like, all right, let's make another one. So, if nothing else, get your goals, find out what you want to fight for. But then you got to ask yourself, once you put the plan together, am I going to follow this plan? Am I going to make excuses? And if you are, change the plan. Excuses are non acceptable. Any successful person I know will take accountability for more than they should. They will take ownership of more problems that are happening than they should. They definitely own their own world, though. So, where are you? Are you the one that knows what motivates your people? Do you have an idea from where you sit what motivates you? Do you have an idea of why your people are doing what they need to do? Are your people motivated by fear of consequences? Are they motivated by achievement? Are they motivated by, I don't know, social factors or incentives or just growth? You know, less than 10% people are motivated just because they want to grow. So you have to understand what motivates you and what motivates your team. Your team is motivated to do all the things that you want them to do to achieve the company goals, but they're doing it for themselves. So, what are the goals? What motivates them? If someone is fear based, they fear consequences, like I don't want to let my family down, or I just got the new job and I don't want to be embarrassed, or whatever it may be, fear of consequences is a very, very strong motivator for some. Same thing with social recognition, social factors. They want to walk up and be on stage and show that, right? You have to understand what motivates them so you can poke the bear in yourself. So when you find out what motivation is, then you got to put the plan together, get the roadmap down, and then make sure that after you get the roadmap down, that we're not going to have any excuses with this thing. Being successful isn't hard on paper. Doing what has to be done is a little more difficult. Let's talk about the last piece. Get the right motivation, get the right plan. Not deal with roadblocks anymore. Get the rules, all behavior. You're focused on your behavior. You're not making excuses on why you're not doing your behavior. Now let's talk about the technique stuff. For today, I want to share with you just three simple things. Increase your average case size, improve your ratios, and shorten your sales cycle. Shocks the living daylights out of me that I've talked to people who have a sales cycle. Well, it takes 4, 5, 6 meetings just to get to first base. And then they close, they do a presentation, they close, and they have like 5 closing meetings afterwards. It doesn't make any sense. So I want you to realize these three things all have to do with one thing before it. My question to you all is, how good are you at qualifying? How good are you at really getting pain? How good are you at really getting down to the business impact and how it affects them personally? How good are you at really getting impact? Because that's what people spend money, time, and energy on to fix. They don't fix pain. They fix the impact of the pain. So when you look at this, ask yourself, how good are we at getting and how good are we at qualifying? So let me share a couple things with you real quick. Average case size. This I love doing. I do it with a lot of my clients. We can get 20 to 30% increased growth with my eyes closed with certain types of markets and certain types of individuals just by doing the average case size increase I'm going to share with you. Right now, I want you to realize several things in your notes. People earn exactly what they think they're worth. Number one, who they call on inside of an organization has more to do with your self-esteem than your skill. Whoever you call on, executives, VPs, right, owners, workers, wherever that's more to do with your mindset. Third thing, average case size has more to do with your mindset than your self-esteem. So what that means is people will look for what they're looking for. And when they find it, they stop looking. So if my mindset says that an average case size is $3,000, I'm going to look until I find a $3,000 problem, then I'm done looking. So what we want to do is have the ability to expand and have the ability for them to learn how to make sure that we can get to the point where they're learning this stuff. Okay. So what we want to do is have the ability to take a look at how we can increase this average case size. Okay. Now, with that, we have the next piece, which is how to do that. Here's what I'd like you to do. It's 10% average increase of your average case size. So I made your average case size is $3,000. Well, that means in the next 30 days, what I would like you to do in 30 days is just increase it by 10%, if it's possible. Now, for some, that increase, I prefer it to be in 30-day increments. Sometimes it's 60 days. I'm okay with that too. This means you're going to grow by 18%. So if you're comfortable with 3, then get comfortable with 33, then get comfortable with 36, then get comfortable with 39. Now, some of you would say, oh, for God's sake, really? Yeah, this is what happens. We do it all the time. We get people to go from 3,000 to 4,800. It's just going to take a bit of time. Could be 300,000 to 4.5 million. It doesn't make a difference, team. It's just whatever from your standpoint is that you're trying to accomplish can be done. So think baby steps. 10% increase, massive, massive works. Another one that you can do is called bringing the future into the present. Bringing the future into the present is reducing leakage. I hate leakage. Leakage is if you're closing, this just drives me nuts. Some people will say, well, Glenn, I have a 30% close ratio. I'm doing great. I'm like, what? That means you're leaking 70% of the time. That's awful. That means that if you do 10 proposals, you close 3 of them. That means you wasted time doing the other 7 potentially, especially if you get to think it over or no. So if we look at it, how do we get to know faster? How do we get a higher conversion ratio? So what I want to share with you now is a higher conversion ratio. And this assumes that you got pain, money, and decision. Now, you can look at it this way. These are all easy ways of doing bring the future into the present. I'm going to start here, which is the 301 version. 301 version, to make sure we're on the same page, is I got pain, money, and decision. I am now at the presentation fulfillment stage. Right before you do the presentation fulfillment stage, before you leave, you do the ultimate contract question. And we all know whenever you are inside the process, before you enter the next step, you always have to summarize where you left. Remember, always before you go to the right, you summarize the left. So before I go into my presentation, I got to make sure that I have the ability to make sure that I have clarity on pain, money, and decision, and that I'm ready for them to take action. So the way to do that, we have found that works exceedingly successful. You can use it if you want. If it works, great. Here's how we do 301. 301 sounds like this. I have met with Tom. Tom and I have chatted. We want pain, money, and decision. So I'm going to say to Tom, thank you very much for all that you've done. I'm going to go back to the office. I'm going to take everything that you've done. I've gotten lots of notes. I got your 7 pages of data that you've given me. I'm going to put it through our system into our process. And when we do that, it's going to create an output that's our belief of the best way to solve some of the problems that you and I were talking about within the dollar amounts that you have. Now, I ask one thing. When we come back next Thursday to go through the results, I don't want any anxiety between the 2 of us. I don't want any anxiety in the meeting. So quick question. If we go through the presentation and you say to yourself, not comfortable, doesn't make sense, don't like it, doesn't fit, I don't care what it is, are you okay telling me no? And the prospect will say, well, I said, no, it's okay. Are you okay telling me no? If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And by the way, it's critically important for them to say, yes, I will tell you no. And by the way, you have to do it 2 times. I can tell you no. Are you sure about that? Even if don't be nice, just be straight with me. It doesn't fit, doesn't fit. I can say that to you. So when they say I can do that, the next step I want you to say is you drop 1 volume, 3 speed. And you say, and what would you like to do if it fits? And what do you want to do if it fits? The only answer you should hear is, what are you talking about? Aren't we going to get started? If you hear things like, well, I got to go talk to, or I don't know, we got to bring it, everything you're going to hear now, you will hear after you do your presentation. But the cool thing is you don't have to do the presentation. So learn how to bring the future into the present. It is a machine. So I don't want any anxiety. Are you okay telling me no? Yes. Are you sure about that? Yep. So you can tell me no? Yep. And what do you want to do if it fits? Be quiet. So when you look at moving forward, you got to make sure that whatever you decide is success, is your goals. Just make sure that your attitude is strong enough so you're committed to do the discipline that's necessary so that you can follow your plan consistently so you can achieve your goals. I hope you had some great insight for today. Hope you learned some really good things moving forward. And as we start to look forward and you look forward for your own growth, make sure if you believe you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. You got to remember psychologically, the first hurdle we have to get to is I can do this. When I get to I can do this, it's going to turn into I will do this. And I will do this turns into I am doing this. So play the game the way that your mind is set up. It's your choice. So help your people, help yourself become the best they can be by driving and getting clear goals, strong attitudes, and the right techniques. Thanks, everybody.